welcome to another video on the JayBee
Hey.
and Milly channel. Today we are going to be reviewing the next episode of Scooby Doo and Guess Who, which is The Nightmare Ghost of a Psychic You.
Yeah, of Psychic You. So I guess, to address the elephant in the room, this was meant to be the date that we released one of our new Scooby Doo reviews, which was going to be one of the movies. Now, recording unfortunately couldn't happen on that this week, but I know that people really like the Guess Who reviews as well, so we should be back with the normal schedule next week, but also I guess we're going to try and integrate some more Guess Who here, although I think we're both pretty excited to move on to some of the other shows as well. So yeah, Nightmare Ghost of Psychic You. As our usual format, we're going to be discussing the guest first. In this case, it is Whoopi Goldberg. So I'll ask you, Milly, how familiar are you with Whoopi Goldberg? What's your kind of background on that?
I think everyone's heard the name Whoopi Goldberg, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like this is where I'm going to get things horrifically wrong. Am I right in saying the thing they're kind of best known for in the last kind of two... No, I'm getting things completely wrong. On to you. Tell me what you know.
I think I know what you were going to say because it's what I thought. But if I say it, it's not like I'm worried about backlash. I think it'll expose how much we properly know each other. So I will just put a pin in it. And we will get back to that in our own time, or we're just going to expose ourselves as being sickeningly cute together.
Oh, I know we've completely got the wrong end of the stick and we've both got the wrong end of the stick, but what do you know of Whoopi Goldberg? Tell me, definitively.
So my first interaction in terms of fandom with Whoopi Goldberg was her role in Sister Act.
Yes!
I never saw the sequel, actually, but I really liked the first Sister Act, and... really, with Whoopi Goldberg in more recent years, the last thing I heard about her was that she went on to defend that comedian that made those jokes at the Golden Globe Awards, which I suppose isn't going to be my main focal point because I guess I can see some of the stuff that she was saying, like it's difficult to do and whatnot, although I'd argue you shouldn't get such a big platform unless you're ready. But ultimately, the guy, in my opinion...
that comedian wasn't ready.
He was about as funny as my dead nan's last mammogram. Like, that's the type of humour that guy was resonating. So I don't quite know what that says. But yeah, Whoopi, I think, an alright guest. Interesting for Scooby-Doo. But again, I think has been in a lot of things that people know. And there's one of them that's mentioned in this, or referenced to. But... I don't know where that's from. Where she was playing as psychic in something. No clue. It's lost on me.
Honestly, I must admit, other than Sister Act and Sister Act 2 Back in the Habit, it's the only thing I know from.
Did you watch the second one? Was it good?
Don't really remember it, but I seem to remember enjoying them when I was younger.
Okay, I like it. Maybe we'll add that to the list. We'll review it next week.
But, I mean, ultimately, it's a big name. Everyone knows, or at least has heard Whoopi Goldberg, right? So I think compared to some of the other guests, it's an impressive get for them.
Yeah, why not?
So something that impressed me more than perhaps the guest was the initial scene that they set up for this. So you had a big haunted kind of mansion-style house, snow, and the northern lights above it. I've always wanted to see the northern lights. So instantly for me... this beautiful little scene they had at the start was ticking many, many boxes.
Yeah, what I'll say, and I think this isn't going to be a compliment for me necessarily, because I think in terms of general aesthetics, Guess Who is my favourite of the modern, kind of day of Scooby-Doo. But the first frame of it, when it had, that kind of background shot of the house and everything, I literally thought I'd accidentally put on an episode of Mystery Incorporated. So... maybe that's not a compliment for me as such, but in terms of Scooby-Doo fans listening to this, that's probably going to be a plus in their mind. So, but yeah, in terms of production design, I think this is a really strong start.
That for me is kind of where the positive as visuals end. So obviously we get the opening credits, and then what are the weird winter outfits? Why is Velma wearing a blue coat?
I like Daphne's enough. It wasn't my favourite. I think they did it much better way back in Where Are You, but also recently in the same style in Trick or Treat at the start of that. But I didn't dislike it. It was just like, why?
It lacked detail. Even Daphne's, normally you get a feel of some form of texture to the jacket. Do you know what I mean? You get a feel that it's going to be soft. It was just just a block of colour, I don't know. And Velma wearing the blue coat was just, I've got a million questions as to why and how.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, especially when you consider the fact that apart from, because we don't dwell on outside a lot, to be honest. I guess we kind of do at the end, but to add on to a bit more of like color diversity between the blues and the whites, like an orange would have been nicely to like contrast with that. It's just, I mean, maybe it would have been too much for them, but I don't see why. So yeah, I really don't know why they did that.
No, and I guess for me as well here, and I realise this is just me continuously being critical, but this is where we get two different stories. I feel like the gang very much branches here. So Scooby and Shaggy have a whale of the time. They're going to go and eat some pancakes and then spend the episode with Whoopi Goldberg while she tries to do some weird psychic stuff. The rest of the gang are going to go and do the mystery. And the two don't really interlink until the very end. For me personally, I'm kind of looking at JayBee here, perhaps for a second opinion.
Well, like I say, like, and this doesn't captivate me, obviously, but when there was some action to be had, I actually did find myself quite interested, and this is where we may differ, which I think you've alluded to this, but I actually did quite like the design of the monster. I thought that it was different enough to stand out. Like, it wasn't just, here's a variation of the tar monster in terms of making things a bit weird, or let's play it safe and give us a variant of, say, like a phantom shadow. I thought this was quite a nice blend between a Slender Man type figure, but also there's a monster with the coins for eyes, and like, I know it's based on something more folklore-y, but it was alluded to in that one movie we saw. It was, I think it was an Annabelle movie, Annabelle Comes Home, and just the mouth, the way that it kind of was warped, like, I don't know, maybe the colour was a little bit goofy, it made it look like a bit of an elongated Mr. Meeseeks, but in terms of just core design, I think this is up there for Guess Who monsters for me.
I really didn't like it.
Why? Well, we can debate.
To me, it's like Insidious meets The Nightmare Before... It's like Insidious meets The Christmas Carol. Because obviously The Christmas Carol's where they put, like, coins on their eyes and stuff. And, you know, it happens quite a lot. It happened even in, you know, that quite recent episode of Doctor Who with David Tennant where all of a sudden the character bends over backwards into a crab and is, like, walking on all fours. Kind of reminds me of that, the really elongated limbs and stuff, and I don't like it. I get it's creepy, but it just, there's something aesthetically that just doesn't hit for me. And also,
give it any thematic points in that you compared it to Nightmare Before Christmas and it's quite a wintry episode?
I misspoke. I didn't mean The Nightmare Before Christmas. I meant The Christmas Carol.
It's still Christmas.
Yeah,
right?
It's still Christmassy, but no. And also, the colour palette for it as well. You know, it's just that kind of typical blue. No.
And we'll leave it to the comments because it's not often that we have such a contrasting thought on an objective thing like design and stuff like that. So I personally really like it. Again, maybe we could have made it a bit of a darker shade or something like that. But I do like this one. And I just think there's something, I like the elongation. I think with it being animation and not a warp of a live action, you know, stuff like that, I think it did just make it look a bit unsettling, a bit like an uncanny valley type aspect where you know that this monster is out of proportion, and for all it doesn't give you any sense of danger for the characters, it does give you a sense of almost claustrophobia in that whenever the monster would pop up in a doorway, for instance, I'm thinking, oh, how are they going to get out of this scenario? You know.
See, I can't sit and debate it with you because I can't tell you what I don't like about it. I just don't think it's impactful. To me, it's just a lot of blue lines that is something.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that, but I personally, it worked for me, that's what I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's one for the comment section at this point. I mean, what did you think? And so we continue on with this. We get to the unmasking. Honestly, for me, there's not that much more to it.
Well,
I'm going to let you fill this in. I mean, okay, so there is. So Daphne, Fred and Velma are kind of investigating this. They somehow get trapped behind a photo frame Whoopi Goldberg's had some insight that she's had this kind of vision that they are hidden behind this photo frame, and that's how they save them. We do see they kind of do that hide in plain sight thing that Shaggy and Scooby always do to avoid the ghost. They manage to get to the photo frame and rescue the rest of the gang. And then there's some stuff with snow machines in a maze.
Yeah. Well, that's one of my main problems. I don't know if this was just me reading into it. I don't think so, unless it's meant to be purposely derivative. I guess they would call that a homage, which is fair enough. But there was so much iconography towards The Shining and stuff like that. Notably, the first movie by Stanley Kubrick. But then I'm thinking to myself, if I'm in the mood for something Shining-esque, I'm going to go to either The Shining book or Kubrick's movie. Or, if I'm interested even in Scooby Doo and The Shining, it's going to be Mystery Incorporated, because that did a better job with getting that sense of horror and, whimsy. A bit odd, but I think that's the point of The Shining. It is a bit odd. Whereas this is like, it's your normal episode of Guess Who, but in a different setting. Like, there is no real reason for the maze apart from the fact that it just feels, oh, we've got a hotel looking thing, we're in the snow, let's have a maze because mazes are cool, and it's kind of like The Shining, and it's a decent place for a set piece. Like, it's not cynically done. It wasn't done for like a cash grab of, hey, come on, watch this if you like The Shining. Like, you can tell that it's just been done in good fun, but it's more, well, what does that do to me? And in the end, it's an interesting setting, but not much more than that. It isn't enough to elevate it beyond some of the other episodes we've had previously. And I don't think it's the weakest one. I just think it comes across as incredibly bland. Like, it's well packaged, but when you actually unbox it, there's kind of not much in there.
No, I think the unmasking illustrates that quite well as well. So it's a must that it's the person that made the pancakes, right?
Yeah, well, we find the dog first, which I thought was cute because, it's a little animal, but yeah.
Yeah, so you find the dog and then the unmasking. And like I said, the pancake girl appeared in maybe one scene, and it was literally just to make pancakes. Like, there wasn't any, I don't feel like there was any build up to, ooh, this is who it is. And yes, we'd seen some leaflets for a ski resort before, and that was the motive. They wanted to do something with skiing, but I just don't ever feel like when there's these guests, it's too much about the guest, and I don't enjoy it. Like, for example, there is a huge thing on being a psychic and hypnosis and everything. Wouldn't it be great if it was Whoopi's experimenting had gone wrong, and the villain was hypnotised, and that's why they'd done what they did, because it made it relevant to all this stuff that we've been tolerating throughout the episode. I just don't think it ever ties back in well. And JayBee, from what you know of Whoopi Goldberg, any of it to do with hypnosis, psychic stuff? I know you said there's a project that maybe we don't know about, but let's be real, the thing that she's best known from for us is Sister Act.
But also as well, I guess a lot of the psychicness could have been, again, a little homage to The Shining, because obviously Danny Torrance has the shine, which is not exactly like, stuff like that, but it's kind of. But yeah, Sister Act would be the way to go. I mean, we always pay homage to the classics, and it's right we do that. And I know, like, release date, you don't want to pay homage to something that's a big flop or not beloved or stuff like that. But I just think something cool, like a spin on, like, The Nun, that horror movie, for Whoopi Goldberg from Sister Act, just something like that would have maybe been more fitting. Like, just some type of spooky monastery or something would have been fun.
Not even that, like, the key thing in there was her singing. So have a piano in this massive mansion, get her singing, like, what we actually know her from. The psychic thing, honestly, I found it tiresome. I found it tedious. I'd have liked it linked back. I would have liked the villain to have done what they did because they were accidentally hypnotised. If it was the pancake lady, she was working around the house and, like, stood at the opposite side of the room when Whoopi was trying to do some hypnosis, and that's why they did what they did. Like, I want it to tie him back. I don't want to have tolerated all this for it to have no relevance in the end.
Yeah, and I think, and you can forgive me if I'm wrong, we have another reveal from the ghost as well, and I think it is just some last minute detail. You know, we've mentioned the elongation of the monster. I think Velma literally says, "Oh," and then there's this other character who, by the way, was well renowned for doing like what is it called, stilts and stuff.
Yeah, still skiing.
And so it was just kind of maybe don't reveal that the second before we're gonna just uncover some weird stilts. It's just, I don't know. There's a lot of this that I'm not expecting like groundbreaking animation writing, because it is meant to be for younger audiences and it is meant to be fun, which I can see it being fun to people. But then when it's last minute exposition like that, it's just a bit like, well, how much thought went out into mapping this apart from this is what we need, let's just chuck in that explanation there. It's kind of the worst example. It's like what you get when you don't listen to the advice, show, don't tell. There's just a lot of exposition where it could show us.
To me, and this is what irritates me, it's a common theme for me so far for the Guess Who series, and I don't think we're going to be stopping it here. It just feels like the episode doesn't achieve anything. Like, we meet a character at the start, it's all about the guest, and then there's some reveal that we had no chance of ever knowing. They don't plant seeds along the way. The guest is literally stuffed down your throat for the entire episode. That's what the main focus is, and it's not about the mystery, it's not about the story, it's about showcasing this guest. And honestly, I'm kind of not enjoying it.
Yeah, I mean, again, hit and miss, because there are episodes that I have liked.
Fine, yeah, I agree. I think the first one felt so comfortable, like complete Scooby formula, and it felt comfortable. But obviously now we're a few in.
But again, the performance, like the behind the scenes performance of like Whoopi Goldberg and the cast, I mean, it's so easy to forget about that when you're in the moment, because you are just having to consume so many episodes, or you're so used to it at that point. But it is worth mentioning that, at least for me, the whole cast showed up to be the best versions of themselves. Like, they weren't bored at the microphone, like they were there to do what was written. And I think they all did really well with it. It's just, again, I think the thing with Guess Who is it's a little bit like a selection box that you'll get at Christmas. Like, you've got a load of the bounties that you're either going to have to eat because your grand's watching and you don't want to, like, break her heart. But then, like, once you've sifted through all of them, you could occasionally get those lovely Malteser ones. Like, it's a bit like that. The Guess Who is a selection box. There's stuff that you have to swallow because you don't want to, like, be rude in front of relatives. But then there is stuff genuinely that is really lovely and really meaningful. It's just, I think this one's a bounty, to be honest. At least for me, anyway.
So does that mean for you it's a pass?
This one I think I will pass. There's just not that much in it for me, especially when it's so similar to an episode of Mystery Incorporated in terms of themes, that I think it just does it a lot better there. That there's not really a reason for me to come back to this one. What about you?
I agree, it's a definite pass. I don't think I'll ever try and force myself into watching this one again. And quite frankly, if they'd used the word psychic or hypnosis again, I think I'd have screamed. It was definitely getting on my nerves by the end of it. I know it's nasty to say and it does sound rude, and I'm sorry if I sound really negative, but I just think that I want a mystery, and I don't think this was.
Yeah, she's psychic, we're sidekick.
I don't even want to be a sidekick.
You don't want to be a sidekick?
No, I don't want to be a sidekick either.
I think you'd be a good sidekick. Right then, before we wrap up this episode, Millie, please do me the favour of telling me my fortune.
I see this episode never taking place again in your future.
Okay, well, we'll take that. We will take that. So, again, thank you so much to everyone for watching. This is not part of the series that we were doing in December, so there's not going to be an interview announcement at the end of this, although I can reveal that our next interview will be someone that has worked on Guess Who, so that's kind of an interesting bonus before. And he does watch and listen to our reviews, so Milly, like, I don't know what you do. So rude. If you're watching this, isn't Milly rude? If we ever do a follow-up, make sure to tell Milly how very rude she is.
I've had a bad day at work, okay?
No, I'm just gonna. It all is in good fun. And like with anything, like with any fandom, there's some rotters, and there's some what rhymes with rotter that's good. Some got.
Some that are hotter.
Oh yeah, I like that. Yeah, some hotters and some rotters. So we'll see.
Look, I did really enjoy the first episode of this series. There's been some okay ones.
I didn't. I loved What a Night for a Dark Night. I loved that one a lot. There's a lot more. And there's some that I'm really looking forward to coming up as well. Like, I think the next one might be the one with Mark Hamill, which, for all I'm not a Star Wars person, I like Mark Hamill as a personality, so I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, gosh. I'm not trying to do damage control here. That's not what this is. It's just, this episode just didn't resonate with me.
No, nor me. So we're good. So yeah, thank you so much to everyone for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe.
JayBee Milly.